And good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It is so good to have you all here for another Indie Author Live Chat. And today we are welcoming Helen Garraway. Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for
Hello.
joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
I've been so excited for this live because you are a multi award winning author and an indie author. And that is really exciting, especially for newer indie authors who are like, do I ever stand a chance of succeeding or anything? And your books themselves are so great. You write epic fantasy. So,
That's
why
right.
don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the Sentinel series?
Okay. Yep. So, as Katherine says, I'm Helen Garraway. I'm the author of the epic fantasy Sentinel series, which is currently 4 books and 2 novellas strong. I live in the leafy suburbs of the south of England in the UK, and I've been writing, I suppose, since about 2016. I started writing. I'm a very late bloomer. I've always been a great reader, and I love fantasy and I read virtually any genre, but I do love fantasy, and so I started writing what I read. So I must admit that I've written epic fantasy, and of course they always say only don't write a trilogy for your first book. So what do? You write a trilogy, of course. But I was pretty lucky, I think. When I first started writing, I just wrote, and it's like a dam burst, and all this creativity occurred, and I just started writing, and I wrote 7 books straight over a couple of years, and the ideas just came out. And then it was going back to edit and polish and then decide what to do with it. But yes, so epic fantasy is where I started. But I must admit, I've got a few other ideas running as well, and of course, I've written a fantasy romance for the Realm of Darkness anthology, and I have a dystopian fantasy virtue written as well. Yet another idea in a different world. So I have lots of ideas, lots of things to write.
That's really exciting. So, did you find it difficult to get started really in epic fantasy? Because I know for a long time that was considered more of a male dominated subgenre of fantasy. And I know that that's changing, which is good.
Yeah.
But was it difficult for you to try to put your books out?
Not really. I mean, I did consider my name because I know, as you say, epic fantasy is more male dominated. And I wondered if I just used my name, Helen Garraway, would people still pick my book up being female? But I just thought, well, why can't women write epic fantasy as well? I'm just going to go with my name, and it'll be fine, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, I originally wrote my books for me. It was I wanted to read them. As a type of book that I wanted to read. It was once I'd written so many, so I thought I've got to do something with them, and then started the exploration of how do you publish, and should it be traditional or should I do self-published, and did all that research and decided the self-published route. But, um, but yeah, I didn't consciously choose epic fantasy. I wrote what I wanted to read, and it happened to be epic fantasy, but I love the world building side. So just building my own world with my own characters was the fun piece for me, and it just became epic fantasy. When I was writing, I was thinking, is this high fantasy or is it epic fantasy? Is it the same thing? So I just, because it ended up being such a saga, I called it epic fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many great facets to the world in your book and your characters. And, I think one of the big differences between the high fantasy and the epic is one focuses so much more on the growth of the characters as people versus just their place in a story. Not that either one is bad. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. But, I think you've got the richness of characters in your books, and that's really exciting. So, for those who haven't read your books, I know you mentioned your fantasy romance, which we're going to talk about today a little bit, but how much romance was in Sentinels? Was it a big difference between what you're writing now?
Yeah, I mean, the Sentinels romance isn't a key plot. It's just it happens naturally within the story. So really, the Sentinels is really lost and found family and a saga and a quest, a typical epic fantasy sort of trope, I suppose. But within that, there are, as you say, some very rich and vibrant characters, and they are such fun, and they get up to so many different things. But as their journey evolves, the romance comes in, and as they find people, that are really important to them, I think then the romance becomes stronger. But it was never a romance, major theme. It was just part of the story, and I think that's the nice thing about fantasy. Although you say that it's a fantasy book, you pull in all of the different genres anyway. You know, there's an element of romance, there's an element of mystery, there's an element of thriller, there's suspense. You know, you've got your epic battles. So you bring everything in anyway. It has a touch of many different genres that's wound into that overwhelming story that you're building, and of course the world building is the context and the environment that the story is told. So so it wasn't key, but it does grow as the series progresses. But it does get
Does it?
darker as well. I've got 2 more books, well, 3 more books to come out. I've got the prequel that I'm writing at the moment, and then there's 2 more books that are later, 20 years later, but they get a lot darker, unfortunately. But
The
there you
poor
go. It's just,
characters.
yeah, as if they haven't been through enough already. Yes, it gets worse. But there you go.
Uh, so, how did you get involved in the Realm of Darkness set and just like writing the fantasy romance? That's really exciting.
Yeah, it was. Well, I had a 2 or 3 different books on the go, and part of signing up for the anthology was deciding which book to complete for the anthology. Which one shall I do? And I got caught by the magical creatures, because when the Realm of Darkness, I saw it on one of our communities. When they first published it, it was more, the focus was on having a magical creature than romance. So it's like the idea of writing magical creatures was really intriguing. And I had a couple where I had familiars, and where I wanted to write books with dragons, because I just love dragons. I've collected dragon ornaments since I was a child. You know, I've always been a great dragon lover, so was ideal to have the opportunity to write a story with dragons in as well. So that tempted me, and then I signed up. And it was also, I think, the opportunity to get more involved with the writing community. I mean, there's 40 of us in the Realm of Darkness. Well, 40 plus, isn't there? There's more than 40 authors, or 40 books. So it was an opportunity to build relationships with those authors as well. And it's interesting to see, as part of that anthology, what goes into building an anthology, marketing, and all the types of things that we get up to trying to drive those sales. But yeah, but it was fun. It's the first one I've done to an external deadline, because of course Sentinels I wrote to my own deadline, and I've published them as I've wanted to. But of course, with this being a published anthology, we have to have it all done by the 1st of August, which is what, 2 months away.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
it's
long.
quickly ticking away.
It
I was
goes a
going to
lot.
actually
Yeah.
ask what that's been like for you, because I know for each of us it's been a little different, having that deadline there versus when you're indie published and you want to push something back, or something else more inspiring pops up, you can just shift over and write what you want to write.
Yeah.
Has it been difficult to like stay focused and just get the one?
Um, I think not. I think the deadline helped, actually, because it made you write. It made you. Knew that I needed to get it written in order to be able to get my beta readers reading it, or to give it to an alpha, then a beta, and then to get it edited. So it's now with the copy editor. So I get that back mid-June. So for me, that gives me like 6 weeks to make any final edits and polish it off, which I think is fine. I think that's enough time, because I actually think the book's in a reasonable shape. I don't think there's anything major that I need to change. I think it's possibly only if there's any areas that are a little bit confusing, or I just need to clarify a little bit maybe, or to justify something. But I don't think there's anything big that I need to change or rewrite, or hopefully I don't have any chapters to write. But then you don't know till you get it back. But there you go.
And
But
I
yeah,
love
no,
that you
I think the
include
deadline
that in
helped.
your
Yeah.
process. I'm sorry. Yeah, I love that you include that in your process, because that's a side that I think not a lot of people knows go into a book. And if you're a reader and you're wanting to read an author you love and you genuinely can't afford their books, definitely getting into an advanced reader copy team, or maybe
Yeah.
even a beta reader team, is a huge help to both the author and to be able to read the work that you love. I couldn't put a price on how valuable
Yeah.
those readers have been to my journey, and just super,
Yeah.
super.
I mean, my alpha reader has been absolutely invaluable, because that's the first person I released my book to, and he's been the one that's read my book the first time of anybody. And I didn't even know him when I first did. I met him through a friend of a friend, and he loved epic fantasy, and he was happy to read it. So I sent it off to him, and went, the first time you let go of your book. And he's read them all ever since. And when I sent Soulbreather, which is my romantic fantasy for the Realm of Darkness, I was really hesitant, because he's a Game of Thrones lover. You know, he put Game of Thrones down to read my Sentinel series, and he absolutely loves my Sentinel series, which is really, really makes me feel really good, because he's always so supportive and has great feedback. Um, and he loved Soulbreather, which is completely different to the type of thing that he reads. But then, even though it's a romantic fantasy, I've still got world building in it. I can't not world build it. It's just the just the way I am. Everything I write has this rich environment, which it gives the context of the story, and I just love that element of writing. So, but he loved it too, which was quite a relief. But it does give you a good pointer as to whether you're on the right track or whether there are any glaring issues within your plot and your story, which I did worry about because this was the first book outside of the Sentinel series, and having written 4 books and 2 novellas in that series, I'm actually very comfortable in that world now, and I know who my characters are, how they react, and where they fit and what they do. So this was completely new.
So, do you have, or will you be accepting advanced readers for your book before the
Yes,
set
yeah,
comes out?
I have on my Instagram. Well, I have a link tree, so it's linktree / Helen Garraway, and it's in my Instagram, which is Helen Garraway author, and you can just click on there and apply to join my ARC group. Yes, and you can get Soulbreather will be the next one, and then after that it'll be the prequel to the Sentinel series, which I'm looking to release next year. I've sort of scaled back a bit. I was releasing 2 books a year, but it's just so expensive until you start actually selling your book. So I thought, well, I've got Soulbreather coming out in October. I'll do the next Sentinels one next January because I just can't afford it. Because I did the audiobook of my first
Yeah,
Sentinels Awaken. This one,
congratulations.
Sentinels Awaken. Oh, where is it? Sentinels Awaken. Yes. So I just released the audiobook, which was another fun experience and completely different and a completely different learning curve, figuring out a new platform but finding a narrator but yes, so that's out there now as well. So now I've got to save my pennies for the second book. So
Yeah,
next one.
yeah. Like we were talking last night with CH, and we were just saying that we, as indie authors, mostly write because we have a story that just has to be told,
Yeah,
and we want to connect with other readers. And the money is definitely helpful if we can make sales and it supports our work. But otherwise, we work day jobs and we're working this in. So yeah,
exactly.
supporting your favorite authors with grabbing a copy of their book, or in this case, grabbing a copy of the whole set for the 99¢, it means more than you might think.
It
Um,
is, and it means that we can keep writing as well, because obviously the cost of creating a cover and all the editing and all of the marketing that we have to do, it mounts up, and it takes a while to sell enough books, certainly for indie authors, to cover the costs of publishing it in the first place. So along those lines, I just started a Patreon as well. I actually
oh
released
wow!
a Patreon, yeah. So that's out there. So if you love my books and you want them quicker, sign up to my Patreon and support my writing, and I'll be able to do them faster. As I say, you just can't do it all at once. You just have to be sensible, really. At some point, the finances just don't support it. So yeah. But yeah, so yes, so I have a Patreon too, which is quite exciting.
Let's see. I think I got the link here, so I'll drop it in the comments for anybody that's watching. And if you're watching on Twitter, you'll have to go to my YouTube or Facebook to get the link because I can't post the links through Twitter. But I want to know. Now, I already know, but I want them to know. Are there any hints or spoilers or anything you can tell us about your Realm of Darkness book?
Right, so Soulbreather. So Soulbreather is going to be the first book in the Soul Mist series. Um, and it's basically I was when I was writing it, it was all I was looking at, it's how we all jump to assumptions and how inherently prejudiced we are, even though we don't know we are. We're all so inbuilt in thinking a certain way. And I was just thinking about light and dark and how everybody assumes everything that's light and shiny is good, and where it's dark and shadowy is going to be bad. And I just want to sort of flip that around. So I was playing with a world where half the world is in the sun, is called Angelicus, and it's where all the angels live. And the other half is the world lived in the shadows, in the glooms of this country called Eidolon. And between the two, if you've got a soul, you live in the sun, and if you don't have a soul, you get cast out into the shadows. And it's talking about, whether having a soul and whether you don't have a soul, do you not have the right to having a just as equal a life as if you did have a soul? And the story really follows Solange, a girl who can actually touch souls. So she doesn't admit that. That's her big secret. She can touch souls, and she can see people's upper thoughts when she touches them, and it's very addictive. And she can't help but touch because it's just something that she craves, and it soothes something in her, inside her, probably her own soul. It's just that she has that ability until one day she crosses the wrong person and gets caught and gets dragged into this sort of age-old war that's been going on between angels. And she ends up helping to rescue this man who's been locked up and tortured in this dungeon.
Mm.
And it all becomes he is a fallen angel who's lost his soul, and it all becomes how she can help him redeem himself and save him, and how he sees the world of the shadows and how he wants to help them. So it all becomes this, how do they save themselves from the shadows, and do they even want to, because are the shadows really that bad, and how do they stop those in the light from taking advantage of everybody that's in the shadows, sort of thing. So it's that sort of light and dark, good and bad, angels and fallen angels sort of thing. So yeah, so it's been fun. And then of course Solange and Demavrian are the lead characters, and they've been fun to write as well, because as I say, that's my first real romance, and it's getting those relationships going, and how they meet and how they spark and how far to go, because it's quite difficult, isn't it, to know how spicy to get in
Oh
some
yeah.
books. And I mean, I'm not a romance writer, I'm not a full on, but once you get writing and the emotions flow and the characters take over, you can get further than you think. So it's how far do you rein it back and how much do you write? Because some people love it and some people don't, and it's like getting that happy balance, isn't it? So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
But I think I
So
don't tend to write it for the sake of it. I write it if the story demands it, sort of thing, and it's there for a reason, not just to write it, sort of thing.
hmm that's I feel like that is my philosophy too about writing romance. And I know if you've watched my lives and you're a reader, I've said write what the book calls for, what the
Yeah.
story calls for. In that instance is sort of how I go about it. Um, Now I can say yours is quite good, and I'm so excited for people to read it. But you have read other books in the set too,
I
I
have,
believe.
yes, yeah,
So
yeah. I've read a
Helen
couple.
is a super reader.
Well, it's just something that being an indie author, I think we have such a strong writing community as indie authors, and we all try and help each other. So we try to read each other's work and give feedback and critique. And I think that's part of the value of being part of the writing community. So I think the more we can help each other, the better. So yes. So and we reciprocate. I've read a couple of books and they've read mine, so we get feedback on both, which has been really good. And they're all amazing. They're all very different. They all bring different
Yes.
things to the table, but they're excellent. When you sit back and think how we all come up with these different ideas from a core theme, but we've come up with so many different takes on it. It's going to be an amazing box set. I can't wait to read some more of them because they've all been brilliant so far,
I'm
including
super,
yours, of
super
course. I've read
excited.
yours, which was really good. I really enjoyed it. So,
Oh, thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, I'm super, super excited. There's 40 of them, and they're all full length. And, like, you read Casey Freeman's, right?
I have,
Renegade
yes,
Angel.
the Renegade Angel, yes, and I read Rosalind Breyer's the mermaid one, which is really cool as well. It's like they're based on the Little Mermaid, so it's very cleverly done. Yeah, yes, they're really good. Yes, excellent. So
Yeah.
yes, go order your Realm of Darkness box set. You won't regret it. I mean, 99 cents. It just doesn't compute, does it? It's such a crazy price for 40 full length books, but it is, and yes, can't wait to read the rest.
So
And
I
some of the
love.
covers are absolutely amazing, aren't they? I mean, the covers are
Oh,
gorgeous as well.
yeah.
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 So,
If you're watching and you're in the Dark Book Boyfriends Facebook group, and if you're not, you can go join. We've been doing cover reveals in that group, and we've also been sharing first chapters, and we're going to continue sharing the first chapter of these books between now and when it comes out. And there is some incredible, just like you said, stories in
mm,
there. So, yeah, and a little bit of spice on everybody's level from fade to black to very, very steamy.
yep, switch it one into the other. Yeah, I think there's a book for everybody. I think in there. There's almost a book every day, isn't it? 40 books. That's a year's reading, just about, isn't it?
Yeah. So C.K. Sorens and I were chatting about how different working in a box set has been as opposed to working on our own book. And I'm very curious to hear just sort of your opinion on working in a box set environment overall, especially if there's other authors who are watching who are thinking about jumping in an anthology, jumping in a
Yep.
box set, what considerations you might think that they should have that maybe you didn't have when you started.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously this is my first box set as well, so again, yet another sort of learning experience. But there are some folks in the box set that have done this before and know what they're doing. So you've got some good mentors within the box set to help us. I think the eye-opening piece has been how much work it is, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
just the amount of marketing you have to do. But the nice thing has been to see all the different ideas of different things that you can do to push awareness for the box set. And of course, we're doing this over a period of a year, which is quite a long time. You know, normally when you're marketing your own book, you do like maybe a run up of 3 months to do the marketing of pushing the book when you're going to launch it. But this has been sustained marketing over each month. There's something else that we've been doing, and there's another target that we're trying to hit. So it's quite eye-opening from that perspective. But it also has been extremely useful because now I have all these ideas that I can put down for my next launch. So these are sorts of things I need to be thinking about, you know, whether it's trying to, you know, drive awareness into a certain area or whether it's just trying to get the pre-order sales up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really good. And again, it's building that new network of new authors. You know, we're all now, you know, following each other on Instagram, on TikTok. We're all trying to help each other to build our you know, TikTok is a new platform for me, and I've not yet got my head around videos. I always think TikTok is more for the younger generation, and it's like getting yourself into that groove of creating videos and filming everything. So just so that you can use it in some sort of reel or something. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, but it's very supportive. Everybody is supporting each other, and it's some great ideas, because I think for any author, the marketing piece is the hardest. Is how do you find your target audience? And
Mm.
although, you know, it's really social media is the platform today, because that's where everybody is looking for their information. So you've got to be active on those social platforms just to keep the awareness of who you are and what your books are all about. But I always worry that don't just do social media. You really need to have your own personal newsletter, because
Mm.
you don't own the followers on those platforms. And if your account
Right.
gets shut down for whatever reason, and it happens more often than you would think, you lose all of your followers and you can't get them
Mm.
back. You have to start building it up from the ground. So if you drive every activity in your marketing, you drive to your newsletter and drive to people subscribing to your newsletter because they're interested in your work, you have their contact details and you can contact them directly. So your newsletter really is I would say that your crown jewels. That's what you should be building. Your email list is the piece that's most important. And again, anybody who signs up to your newsletter is interested in your books, so they're already warm. You know, they're already engaged. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, talking to them and building that conversation is a lot easier.
Right. Because that's really why we write, again, why
Yeah,
we write what we write.
yeah,
So earlier this year, you came on one of the panels to talk about what's going on for the year, and that has almost been 6 months ago. I
that's
can
crazy, isn't
hardly
it?
believe it. And at that time, we were talking about all the writing and all the writing. And at this point, is it safe to say that most of the writing is done and now it's an editing phase and prepping phase, or are you writing while editing? How is that going for
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I have so many sort of projects on the go. It's quite scary. So I've written my prequel is written. I've done a couple of editing passes, and I need to do some work on the last third of it, because really the Sentinel series is sorry, I got my nose is running. Is about Gerald, who's a captain in the King's Rangers, who accidentally wakens one of the Sentinels. And the Sentinels have been like a myth and legend for over 3,000 years, that they were the lady's personal guards. And when she last fought the Ascendants, who were trying to take over her world and banish them from the world with all magic, she protected her personal guards in these trees because she couldn't take them with them. And because there was no longer any magic, they wouldn't survive without her. So she encased them in these trees, and they've slept for 3,000 years. And Geralt accidentally wakens one because the threat is back and the lady needs a new captain. So he's become her new captain, not really understanding what's involved or what he has to do. And he's now woken his first sentinel, fortunately, because he gets himself accused of treason and locked up, and the adventure begins as he tries to figure out who's trying to overthrow the king and the Watchers of Vesperi. And then it travels around all the different countries. Each book goes to a different country in a different environment and a different issue. But I've forgotten what I was saying. I keep doing this. I get ramble away in the
We're
middle of
talking about the multiple projects.
my
You've got the
stories, and then I
editing
forget
and the
where I
writing.
started. Oh, crikey. Yes, so I've got like 4 main books I've written, and my 5th book is going to be the prequel. So I've written, so the 4 books go over about 4 years in time, I suppose. The first 3 books follow consecutively, and then the first novella is follows straight after the end of the climax of Sentinel's Justice, and then Sentinels Across Time is a time slip novel, which is really great fun to write, but hard work, keeping everything in the right time and place at the right time, which was like 2 years later. And then I'm now going back 3,000 years to find out how the Sentinels got into the trees in the first place. So what actually happened and why did they end up there? And so I'm following the 3 main Sentinels from where they first meet in the academy, how they become rangers, and then how they become Sentinels, and then what happens at the end to encase them in the trees. So that's been really fun because you get to meet the lady more, and Galère, who was her first captain. So you get to meet the history and understand the whole backstory as to how the Sentinels became where they were in the beginning of the Sentinel series, which is quite fun. And then I have 2 more written in the Sentinel series, books 6 and 7, and they're set 20 years ahead. So now we're almost at the next generation so the key characters, it's their children are coming through now, and it's how and what happens with them in the next 2 books, which has been really fun. And they're written, I just haven't gone back and edited them yet. They're just sitting there waiting. And then, so obviously I've now done the audiobook for Sentinels Awaken, so the next one to do is Sentinels Rising, and I'm going to start that in the summer, hopefully, start the audio piece for that. And I'll be using the same narrator as I used for Sentinels Awaken, because he is absolutely amazing, and I love his voice. That was Matt Coles, and he was really, really good to work with.
Very
And
talented.
then, yes, it was amazing. I just love his voices. It's just so clever. It amazes me how they remember which voice for which character to get that consistency through the book. It's just varying. And the amount of times you have to sit and listen to it to make sure he's not tripped over a word or got a name wrong or that it flows right. You know, it's again, it's a different sort of proofing. It takes so long because the book itself is 11 hours. So every time you have to listen to it, it's 11 hours of listening that you're going through and proofing. So it just takes a long time, which is why I didn't do it myself. I was going to try and do the narration myself. But I just don't have the time. As you say, I work full time, so I only get the evenings and weekends, and I just couldn't do it. So I got someone to do it for me, which I'm glad, because I did like how it came out. And then I have obviously Soulbreather, and because I've been so ingrained in Soulbreather, a whole different world, I've gone straight on to write the second book. So I don't know whether it'll be a duology or whether it'll be a trilogy, or I don't know yet. So I'm writing the second book, but I have it all mapped out and I've started writing it. So I'm sort of on my way through that one. And then, as I said, I've got a dystopian book written. I've got about last 10%. There's like one of my characters went off in a different direction as I wasn't expecting, and it's totally screwed up my timeline. So I've now got to try and go back and figure out how to get them where they're supposed to be at the right time, and I haven't figured it out yet. So it's just sitting there while I noodle on it in the back of my brain until the solution comes to me. It's one of those plot knots that you can't unravel consciously. You know, you sort of got to think about it unconsciously to figure out where you're going to go. But that's like 90% written. So then that one will start the editing process. And then I've got about 2 or 3 other ideas that started, but not very far. So there's lots of writing going on, but really the focus is on editing for the next books that are going to come out. They're written. I just need to do the work to get them edited and through the process and out the other end.
Yeah, yeah. And that can take time. And you
It
have
does.
to really love your books. That's why you write books that you love.
Yep.
Because you have
You've
to
got to read
reread
them
that book a
so
lot.
many times. I know. So eventually you need to just put it away. Just put it away. It's very difficult to put it away, but you need to put it away for like a month and come back to it cold, because then you get to read it and think, did I write that? I don't remember writing that. I did. I wrote that. That was very clever.
It's like, what happened to this writing?
Yeah. Did I really do that? Yeah. But I love it though. I just love anything to do with writing, and I so wish I'd started earlier. But I think, as I've said before, there's a time and a place, I think, and that was a time and place for me. I mean, it's my life has always been everything happens at once. You know, all the major events all happen at the same time, not nicely spread out. It's always all at the same time. You know, and around that time, you know, unfortunately, my mum passed away. My daughter went off to university. I was home alone, you know, with my cat and time on my hands, and ideas started bubbling, and I started writing. So I've been
Wow.
thinking about writing for a while. I've been making ideas in notebooks and researching bits and pieces, and but I hadn't physically put pen to paper and started writing the story, and I just started, and then and that's there, and here we are.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so inspiring. So yeah, no matter what your age, you can
Yep,
start your writing career.
can start anytime. Yeah. And I love it. I just love it. I can't not right now. It's just, it's like, I mean, sometimes I have to take a day off work because I can't concentrate because I have an idea in my head. And until I get it out of my head and on a piece of paper
Wow.
or on my PC, I can't concentrate. So you just have to take the day and have a writing day because you just can't do anything else. It's just one of those things. And I'm off next week. I've got a whole week off next week and I'm thinking, oh, writing, writing, writing. And see how much procrastination I can do when I've got this whole week to write, and I'll be mowing the lawn and you can name it. I'll be doing everything but writing when you've got a whole week of time. It's funny, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Helen. This has been awesome. If you're watching, thank you for joining. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. You can grab your copy of Helen's, well, really the whole box set, as she
Yep.
said, for the 99 cents for all 40 books. The link is in the descriptions. And there's also Helen's link in the description to go check out what she's got going on besides the Sentinel series, just the whole Patreon and Instagram and all of that, and check out her book reviews. If you follow her, you can see all the reviews that she's leaving for these other indie authors as well. So thank you so much, Helen. This has been great.
No, well, thank you for having me. It's been fun. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you all again. Tomorrow we are hopping on live with Daniel Pagan Murphy to talk about his newest middle grade fantasy work and also one of his books that are on the Kindle Countdown week this week for 99 cents. And then we will end our 10-day marathon of author interviews with Shanna Dow. Which has been fantastic. But you can go watch all the recordings if you missed them, and yeah, subscribe so you catch the next ones. Thank you so
Excellent.
much, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.